cloud, but you have to sign in to access that information. And all the patients' records are the sign-ins, the practitioner sign-ins are all recorded. So the patient can request who is
Well, hey, everybody, and welcome once again to the JMOR Tech Talk Show. It is so great to be here on another fabulous, fantastic Friday, the second Friday of June. I cannot believe this, Marcus.
I can't
By the
believe it
way, it
either.
is great to have you with me
Yeah.
again on the show,
Yeah, it's great to be with you, John. I
as
really
we have
appreciate
an
it.
amazing show this evening.
Yes, we do.
We're going to be talking with a great guest a little bit later in the program. His name, in case you're wondering, is Dr. Michael Hutchison, and we're going to be hearing some great truth from him a little bit later in the program.
Yeah.
Well, Marcus, it was lights out for many major websites this
Oh,
past
wow.
Monday. I think it gives the new phrase to the coin of having a bad day a whole new meaning. And
Totally,
so
totally.
some of the sites knocked offline were none other than the New York Times, Reddit, Amazon,
Mm.
Spotify, and many others. Of course, the company did apologize. That was Fastly. And for
Right.
those of you that don't know who Fastly is, they're an advanced cloud computing company. And a quote I want to read, and it said, they had a bug in its code and it had lain dormant until a customer updated their settings, which then took down 85% of the company's network.
Oh my
Marcus,
God.
I don't know. When I hear things like this, it just makes me believe that we have junior people behind a plane.
Yeah,
Or we
totally.
have, I don't want to say kindergartners, but we have people that don't even know how to turn on a computer. And I'm being facetious here. But can you believe a company like Fastly that would allow something like this to just slip under their noses? I just have three words: shame on you. Because how do we trust a company like this? And I think what it really states, Marcus, is that we need to not just rely on one company, especially when it's a worldwide resource like New York Times or other types of companies out there.
Right.
We can't just rely, or the stock market, there has to be redundancy, and not just redundancy in internet service providers, but that they have redundancy in the cloud servers and
Yeah.
cloud computing that they have and web servers. So I think this is just really something that should have never happened. And what
Exactly.
are your thoughts on this, Marcus?
I really feel like it is first class amateur, like you said. I agree with you all the
Well,
way,
I know
John.
it's crazy that all
Yeah.
this is happening, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And, I don't know what's going on, but I think people really need to understand that just because you're a large corporation, it doesn't really mean you know exactly what you're doing.
Nah.
All right. So, again, this really caused quite a bit of challenges for people
Right. The storm.
around the United States.
Mm.
And a lot of people thought they had issues with their system, but really, there was no issue. There was basically a problem in the code. And again, it had nothing to do with people's local computers. A lot of people thought they had viruses. They were wondering why posts suddenly got deleted. And it was nothing to do with anything locally other
Mm.
than a resource problem on the servers by code that was not properly tested. Marcus, this makes me think of the Y2K issue, and that how
Yeah.
people knew it was going to happen, but they didn't really get involved to do something with it until it became a problem where they knew it was going to be a big problem. Well, in other news, if that wasn't big enough news
What
for
a way to
us
open up.
already, I'm sure you probably enjoy that.
Yeah.
Facebook is now embracing the 50-50 work-life balance. What does this
Mm.
actually mean? Well, that is a great question for many of us to try to ascertain. And in English, what it means is that Facebook's offices will be opening at 50% of capacity in September 2021. Okay. Well, that's good news. Yeah, and they're planning a full reopening by October 2021. And those staff members are still waiting right now, many of them, for remote work approval, have to return back to work at this time. Mark Zuckerberg told employees this past Wednesday that he plans to spend a half of next year working remotely. Mm-hmm. And I want to quote something that Mark said. I found that working remotely has given me more space for long-term thinking and helped me spend more time with my family, which has made me happier and much more productive at work. Close quote, he wrote to staffers. And I have to agree. I don't agree with a lot of things that Mark says. Yeah, definitely. However, being able to spend more time with family and being able to really unplug from technology and just be grateful for what's around you, right. I think it gives a whole new meaning to the idea of creativity and being productive. And I think more people need to understand that there needs to be that work balance. I don't agree that we should give up going to work 100%. No. And I think many companies agree that they should stay home. I think it's important to have the team on site with you because there's only so much you can do virtually. And I have to say, this virtual stuff, it's for the birds. Whether we're talking networking, whether we're talking meetings, it's for the birds. Yeah. Because you don't get the same experience, ladies and gentlemen, as you do when someone is sitting right across from you. So we're just going to have to wait and see what's going to happen with that, Marcus, because I think a lot's going to change. I mean, we know the real estate market is changing, and a lot of people now, instead of getting 3 floors that they had before, are getting 6 floors. Which is different than what a lot of people were saying because we thought that space would be cutting back, and it is, but there are a lot of places where they're asking for double the amount of space, not everywhere, so that they can have more room to spread out. It's going to be interesting. We'll have to definitely just wait and see, what's going to happen. Right. Well, anyway, my next guest, Dr. Michael Hutchison. He is an amazing gentleman. He is a U.S. Army Special Forces covert combat veteran and an alumni of the University of the Pacific. Thank you very much for your service, Dr. Hutchison. We greatly appreciate that. Yeah. Dr. Hutchison is now a medical services consultant at the Advocate Consulting Group, ACG. They offer exclusive exceptional provider programs which are aimed at helping medical practices improve patient outcomes, increase practice revenue, reduce malpractice liability, and increase MACRA compliance. ACG also offers pandemic relief programs and developed a COVID-19 care unit, which comes equipped with testing, evaluation, and treatment facilities. Wow. Dr. Hutchison is also a consultant for Pharmanex, pharmacogenomic cellular anti-aging supplements, which are based on learnings from leading genetic researchers and anti-aging specialists. We are excited right now to welcome Dr. Michael Hutchison to the JMOR Tech Talk Show. Well, hi, everyone. It is John C. Morley with the JMOR Tech Talk Show. I am very pleased to have Dr. Michael Hutchison with us here on the show. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. A lot of things happening with COVID and stuff like that, but going back to a lot about what you do, which is in pharmacy, I have to ask you, Doctor, what got you so passionate to want to get into pharmacy?
My desire to help others improve their lives.
I think a lot of times, when you hear about pharmacy, you hear about different drugs, but I think it's so important to have the compassion for patients and I guess really understand what it is they need and not just take a drug for anything, right?
That's correct.
I wish more doctors in our world would have the philosophy that you do, because I think they think if you just throw a drug at it, well, if it doesn't work, we'll just throw another drug at it. But, when we talk about drugs and we talk about our world and, COVID-19, how has the changes to our ecosystem now with what's evolving with COVID-19 and technologies and preparations and sanitation. How are things changing in the ecosystem right now?
Telehealth is one area that's dramatically improved and increased, especially since the technology has been developed because of the COVID to make it a lot easier for the patients and the providers to even work from home, talk to the patients from home.
So now with the Internet of Things and being able to monitor like blood pressure, glucose level, and a host of other things because of IoT, I know two things come up. One is privacy. And second is, how accurate are these devices? And do doctors need to be certified to use this type of technology? Or what's going on so that there is a standard? Because it seems like some doctors may not have the technical background, with all due respect, and they don't want to learn this. So how do they handle this when we hear about telehealth?
There are several organizations that can educate the private healthcare practitioners on this sort of technology. Larger organizations like the Veterans Administration, for which I was a member of for a long time, their IT incorporates the video, the home monitoring, the home care nursing, via the computer, via the smartphone. It's simply a lot easier, and you do have HIPAA that's involved, and many of the rules have been rewritten around that to make sure that the privacy standards are met.
But I'm guessing we still have a long way to go. I mean, they're definitely really trying, but I think there's still ways that we have to go to make sure this information is, let's say, not falling into the wrong hands.
When both the patient and the practitioner are educated in terms of the privacy. So when the patient goes on to when the practitioner connects with the patient on the screen before the patient connects with the provider, there is an agreement the patient needs to read and agree to, and that is the privacy. They want to make sure that the patient is either alone or in a private place to where things can be discussed. Same with the practitioner needs to be in a private place, just like it could be from their office, it could be from their home, in a room with the door closed, where there's complete privacy. All of these meet the HIPAA, but you do have to have an agreement by the patient to agree to do these telehealth communications.
I think that's a great thing, but my concern is I always believe the patient and the medical professional are going to do the right thing. That's never been my question. What I'm always thinking about is the data, okay? Because let's think about it. Every organization around, it's not what they do that makes them money. It's their data that makes them money. And if they could sell data to people that have certain conditions or what have you, that falls into the wrong hands. And that's always my concern. I've seen data like this already be leaked. So that's my biggest concern.
Well, the telehealth video or audio communications are not recorded. The practitioner just does the same as if you were to see the practitioner in the office. They take notes or they enter into the into your record while they're talking to you the information that they need to input into your record. And so your record is not, the data is being entered separately. So I do not see where having these video conferences that are not recorded being a violation of HIPAA.
It's not so much the telehealth. I guess I'm talking about the other pieces where you talk about their data and their identity. Something as simple as a blood pressure monitor, for example, or a glucose monitor. They have links into the patient's information. That link goes to a third party. My concern is that that data is being passed, because when it's processed in like a public cloud, it's really not 100% clean.
Like, for example, I have my blood glucose monitor, and I'm able to download the readings, and then I'm able to upload onto the VA's private communication website, My Healthy Vet. And so doing things in that way, you're avoiding email, you're avoiding putting things in the cloud. That's the important thing, is avoiding what you put in the cloud and how you transmit the information.
Exactly. But some of these systems out there, when you go to offices, all of their data is in the cloud because they're using hosted office practice medical systems.
Well, generally there are a lot of things. Even the VA has their own cloud, but you have to sign in to access that information. And all the patients' records are the sign-ins, the practitioner sign-ins are all recorded. So the patient can request who is signed in to look at my information. So if they suspect that their information's been leaked out, then the privacy department at the VA can go in and print out a list of everyone that is signed in to view that patient's record.
So they have an audit trail, basically.
Correct. And so whenever, like, for example, on my record, there's a warning to whoever signs in before they sign in to access my record that their access is being recorded.
Okay. Very similar to if you go into a bank or certain places and they say, log on from this machine is only by duly authorized employees and contractors. Any attempt of illegal login or impersonation will be fully prosecuted to the extent of the law.
Correct. And the VA, like with many of the federal government and military, they now have what's called a PIV card. It's a privacy card where the practitioner is vetted, and there's a chip authorizing that practitioner to only specific areas relating to their practice as to what they can access in that patient's record. So just because you have a PIV card, you have to put that in. If you don't have the PIV card, then you're not going to get access to that patient's record. And when you do insert the card into your computer, whether it's a desktop or laptop, the practitioner is only allowed access to that patient's record that is pertinent to that practitioner's scope of practice.
Right. So if you had 200 patients, you'd only be able to access your patients, basically.
Well, that's all you should be accessing
Right.
is
Right.
your patients. But if you're a dietitian, you're not able to access the patient's um, disability information. You're not able to access some of the other patient
Okay.
private information. Your access is limited, is what I'm trying to say.
But a
Depending,
weight loss clinic, for example, like I know a lot of medical practices that have a weight loss clinic.
right,
The weight loss clinic operates in conjunction with the medical practice. And so the weight loss clinic does need to see the medical sides because they have doctors on both sides. And even the dietitians need to see like certain things like the blood levels and stuff like that. So that can help them into their diet. So I
right,
guess that's an exception or a
right.
special case.
However, when the dietitian cannot order pain medications,
I got you. Right.
okay, the dietitian's prescription orders are related to dietary. Like
That makes sense. So it just kind of keeps everybody kind of in their own zone, but not so much just with the patients, but also in their disciplines to what information. So that if I'm in a company and I have HR records, well, not everyone gets access to the HR records. The management only needs to get access to their just job description, but not necessarily how much they're getting paid an hour or anything else about them. Their birth date, that's none of the manager's job, but the HR person can have that access.
correct. It depends on your level of security that you have. Which governs the amount of what you're able to access.
Well, that's the key, Dr. Michael. I had a gentleman on a few months ago, and we were talking about this governance. And with IoT, the whole world has expanded to governance. And that there's been a lack of governance on a lot of Internet of Things devices because everybody's so quick to want to get them to the market that they don't have the full privacies on them. They haven't been fully tested, and information's being compromised. And we know on ourselves things like Clubhouse, parts of it are being shut down because their corporate offices are in other countries. They don't have the same rules. In other countries right now, they're allowed to be spamming people. They're allowed to be using multiple VPNs and sending bot attacks. United States, we won't tolerate that. But in other countries, their laws are very loose, and they could do pretty much whatever they want.
Right.
So I think that's a big challenge, and I think you've probably seen this too. Medical laws in the U.S. are different from other countries. I'm presuming we have one of the strictest medical laws.
I don't know that for sure.
Okay.
Because I'm not aware of what other countries have. You've got like the UK or Cameroon. These countries have a state medical system. So they have a one medical system. I believe Canada also has a single state medical system.
Okay.
And so, it's different. Here in the United States, we have government systems, we have private systems. And then you have your, private systems and you have government systems. There are so many different types of medical care or health care companies providing a myriad of services.
And I think that's where it becomes challenging because a lot of these companies are not in the medical field and they're dipping their toe into it and they really don't understand HIPAA and they've got to get a crash course because they're now trying to provide HIPAA services and they haven't done that before. And I see so much of that unfurling right now. And then they're getting served with papers and notices because they didn't comply with certain standards.
Right. For example, with the VA system, we have mandatory annual training that we have to complete by a certain time, certain date. If that's not completed, then we lose our computer access.
And it's almost like your credits. You have to take so many CEUs, basically, right? Every so often, you have to take like these CEUs.
And but this is in HIPAA. Some of the mandatory. It's HIPAA, cybersecurity, privacy, EEOC type things or EEO type things. It's all across the board. Uh, as far as your mandatory education training that you have to complete annually. So annually you are reminded and you're updated on all the recent HIPAA laws, privacy laws, and this and that, so you can understand and take them seriously.
I
When
think
you,
a lot of people don't take them seriously, but I know when I've had several clients where they don't understand that their whole office is compliant, but the x-ray machine that they used once in a blue moon had a system that had, let's just say, Windows 7 on it. And when they came in, or Windows XP at that time, and they came in and everything was up to snuff, but the x-ray machine that had a PC that was buried under the system that nobody looked at except for the inspector that came in and said to them, well, that needs to be updated in 60 days or it's a $20,000 fine. Now, to upgrade the system was only $5,000. So what were they going to choose? I think it just was it was a push to shove. And then they made the policy that you could have only, I think it was $20,000 per incident. And they capped it. I think it was either 50 or 100,000 per practice. So if you had 4 doctors, you could bill it per practice. So if there were 2 practices, they could infract each one. But if you just had 1 doctor, there was a cap, and hospitals had another cap. But something interesting, I know, Dr. Hutchison, that we were talking about while we were in the waiting room to get into the studio, we were having a quick conversation about COVID. And something I found very interesting that I would definitely want to bring to the air was your knowledge and information about the importance of manufacturing. Now, something I wouldn't have ever thought about before. When we're talking about needles, and you were mentioning something about needles being laser sharpened, which didn't even come to my mind before. I knew that it existed, but never really realized that they're still making, I guess, needles in different fashions. I guess that's still happening.
yes, and the mechanically sharpened needles are sold at a much lower price, and they're generally sold to other countries. The laser sharpened needles are a little bit more expensive. They've been laser sharpening needles for several years now, so the price should be coming down by now, I would think.
How do you
But
know whether your needle is laser sharpened or not? Is there a way to know, or not really?
the purchasing agent for the hospital or the medical system, when they purchase these needles, it will stipulate, or it will stipulate on how these needles are sharpened.
Do we know right now if the CDC, are they mandating that? Do you know if that's something they're mandating or no?
I'm not aware of that,
Okay.
but I know the laser sharpened needles are a lot less painful, and you see more and more of those used by diabetics in the lancets and the syringes, and the needles.
So
Sometimes
manufacturing is really not only going to be important for cost, but also for the quality of our health. And you would never think that manufacturing was going to play a role back in the quality of our health. I know I learned several years ago that when they were doing sterilization, they were doing it with the rods, as you may be familiar with. And then they've kind of changed that process a little bit. And now they're making it that when they sterilize the needles or different things that they use, they're using robots so that they actually preserve people's lives. I was very unhappy to learn when I met someone probably over 15 years ago. And he told me he had this job. He didn't graduate high school or college. And he says he makes very good money. And I said, well, that's fantastic. So as conversation went, I said, well, what do you do? He said, well, I hate my job. So you hate your job. Why do you hate it? So I hate it. I said, well, can I ask what you do? He said, I really don't like to talk about it. He said, but I'll tell you. He says, I work for a medical company. I said, well, I can understand how that might feel challenging. I said, I'm also a first responder. He says, no. He says, you don't understand. He says, I don't really work with the people. And I still didn't get it. Then he told me he worked in sterilization. I still didn't get it. The light bulb didn't go on yet. I thought autoclave and a lot of stuff. And then he told me it's very dangerous. And then I started pondering, and within a few seconds, and then he was talking, and he said to me, John, what you don't get is that I had to sign a waiver away for damage to my life. And I'm still not getting it. And he says to me, because I work with these rods. Now, it's still not clicking yet. And then he says, these things are very dangerous. And then he said the word radioactive. And then my eyes lit up. And I said, well, how close are you? He says, pretty close. He says, we're handling these things with gloves. And we're like within a few feet of the room. I said, there's no seal or anything. Nope. He says, that's just how it goes right now. He says, somebody has to be able to do that. And people aren't willing to do that because they could be risking their lives. So then what I learned a few years ago, that now we have robots going in there. And they're actually doing that task. But that job was still around up until about 5 or 10 years ago. Which blew my mind that we were, I don't want to say the word wasting, but we were harming a life for the ability to do sterilization for something when we probably could have just thrown those things out. Because I see a life as being priceless. So I think those are examples where sometimes the medical industry needs to get, I guess, a spin on what's going on because they don't realize that people are not disposable. People are not replaceable. And that's what bothers me when I see that in the medical industry.
It happens in nearly all industries. The human factor oftentimes is less important than the cost factor. You see that over and over and over. Now with the UVC, which is harmful UV radiation,
right?
That is used to sterilize hotel rooms, airplanes. That's also it's also used in hospitals, and a robot now does that procedure.
I saw that.
Humans cannot be in the room during that procedure.
And they were, in the very beginning, they told us it was safe, but it really wasn't safe.
Right, because it's UVC radiation. This is stuff that causes cancer. You get it from the sun. You could also sterilize a few things by putting them in the sun. You could do that with water for about anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours.
I think it's remarkable when we can use technology to save people's lives, not just from a medical perspective, but also from the fact of having what I call a sustainable life, or doing a task like being able to go into a building and check for bombs so a human doesn't have to do that. I think that's just amazing use of technology.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of that was, a lot of those technologies derived from space exploration.
Yes. Mr. Elon Musk and now the new Jeffrey Bezos, who's supposedly trying to understand space when he had no clue about space. He's only getting involved because his friend that he hates so much is doing it, and he just wants to beat him.
It's the low Earth orbit satellite. Previously, those satellites were very few, and there was one contractor that put those satellites in orbit, and those were restricted to military, first responders, government, law enforcement agencies, disaster emergency agencies. But they weren't very reliable because there were only about 10,000 of them.
Yeah.
So they weren't everywhere.
But now our world is changing, and the speed of information, as you know, is growing so quickly, exponentially. We're talking about things like petabytes and exabytes, and the amount of data is getting so large. where we didn't ever think we'd be going past a gig, let alone a terabyte. Now that's becoming yesterday's news when we talk about things like X-rays and other types of larger data like landscaping and 3D reality and all kinds of stuff. So our world is definitely changing, and I'm sure there's a lot more to come. But listen, Dr. Hutchison, we're just about at the end of our time here, and I just wanted to ask you if any of our folks that are watching the show, either tonight here on our podcast or on the Princeton TV network, would like to reach out to you. Is there some way that they can actually reach out to you if they have further questions or they'd like to get in contact with you?
Yes, they can reach me via LinkedIn. Or they can reach me via my email, mdhutch52@outlook.com. My LinkedIn website is www.linkedin.com/in/mdhutch. Both of those I could be reached at both of those contacts.
Well, I have to tell you, Dr. Hutchison, it was a pleasure having you. And just to learn, because you don't see too many doctors that go into, the pharmaceutical and really take a passion. You either see one that goes one way or one that goes another way because they don't agree. But you seem to get both worlds, which I don't see that every day.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, again, it was a pleasure having you on the show. And we wish you all the best in your future endeavors this year.
Oh, thank you, John, and you as well. Bye-bye.
Well, Marcus, what did you think of Dr. Michael Hutchison?
Wow, incredible information. Just things.
I know I learned a lot.
I learned a lot.
I learned a lot of truths that we weren't really being told about during COVID, and something very interesting that I didn't even plan on learning was the fact that needles that are actually made and sharpened with a laser are literally less painful, if having any pain, than the ones that are not sharpened by a laser. That's and incredible. Those needles have a different blunt on the end and can have a little bit more discomfort when going into your skin. So I think that was really interesting, Michael. Hutchison, really, Dr. Hutchison gave an amazing, talk with us about all these things. And I like the way, he's very down to earth and he just explained everything that we needed to know. And I also like the fact that, when he says something, he says it based on facts and his experience. It doesn't come to us based on many years of, the pharmacy industry and stuff like that. Even though he's in these industries, he speaks from knowledge and from facts, which I like. And you don't see that from a lot of doctors. And he's doing some amazing things for the industry. So, again, I want to thank you, Dr. Hutchison, for joining the JMOR Tech Talk show this evening. I know many of our viewers really appreciated what you brought tonight to the show, as well as myself and also my co-host Marcus.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, Marcus, we've been talking about this for a long, long time. JBS Holdings, how they are the largest guys in the meat production industry, and having to pay the cyber criminals now $11 million. Oh my God. And I want to quote something. The recent ransomware attack temporarily knocked out plants which handle about 1/5 of the meat supply for the United States based in Brazil. JBS Holdings is the world's largest meat supplier by sales. That's pretty amazing. And, the fact, Marcus, that, this happened and this company that went after them basically did this for one main reason. And that was because they had the money. And, this company that's coming out of Russia and keeps going out of business and then reopening under different names. I mean, I think it's absolutely terrible, what they're doing, but how many companies I know that lost their money actually have gotten maybe 90% or even more back because they were able to find the Bitcoin accounts that the money was in. So that's a good thing. But I think, that the fact that this meat giant paying over the $11 million ransom is absolutely terrible. And, then we heard about what happened with Colonial Pipeline, that they paid a total of $4.4 million. And then, hearing all this going on, and thankfully, the Bitcoin was able to resume its pipeline, and the Justice Department now managed to retrieve 2.3 million of the ransom paid to the Russian hackers. So I think we're on the right track, but I think we just got to be doing more diligence. Even though this might have been very surprising, JBS was quickly backed up and running thanks to their backup systems. They felt the need to still pay the ransom. Now, my question is, Marcus, why did they feel the need to pay the ransom? If they had the backup, right, why did they feel the need? Is their security system really not in place when it comes to IT technology? And again, I'm not here to knock other IT and tech companies because, we're in this industry. I feel that some of them, though, don't really know what's going on.
No.
And they sell things, Marcus, that are to help them make a fast buck. Now, that's not nice to say, but I say what the truth is. And I've been around this industry for a very long time, and there's so many out there that just try to sell the best thing so they can have the best piece of bread and make the most money tomorrow. A lot of them don't care, Marcus, about what's really going to happen to the business. I remember not too long ago, Marcus, I'm not going to mention the name, but they were a company that started with C. I threw them out over 15 years ago. And this all happened because they made a phone system, and then they stopped supporting small business, or they claimed that they were supporting small business. But to them, small business was over 100 users. And then they said, well, your customer's going to need to spend $20,000 because we don't support the $5,000 system anymore, so we don't make it. I mean, that's just terrible. This company would wine and dine us and other things. And, I told them I didn't need to be wine and dined by them. I need a company that was actually going to help us and do what's best for us and our clients. So we told them to hit the curb, but before we told them to hit the curb, there was one other thing that actually, I would say, broke the camel's back. We had a client, and it wasn't too long after being disappointed, that one of their network infrastructure hardware pieces went down. And so luckily, we always have backup. And so when we called them up and said, this particular device isn't working right, and without telling you exactly what went on, they said, well, you need to go back and reprogram it, or you could change it manually. And it wasn't auto-sensing something. So their excuse was to just set it manually, don't worry about it. Well, that was a terrible excuse.
Oh, that's terrible.
And then they said, well, did you, reload the firmware? I'm like, yeah, we did all that already. So I then told them that, they need to fix this. They said, well, we're very sorry, but you have to send the unit back. I politely told them that I'm going to take this unit and shove it, where. But I told them I'm politely going to take it and put it in the trash, and I'm going to make sure that no one from my company ever buys them again, because they are a horrible excuse for a company. And I know many banks that actually yanked them out because of their poor level of quality. When you have to call somebody, whether it's Amazon, whether it's this company that was a C, or other companies, or the company with a D, these people that answer the phone don't have a clue. I had to do an RMA the other day, and the guy, because we didn't get a product, actually, I needed to get a replacement, I should say, not really an RMA, and I needed to get the product because they didn't deliver it to us. They delivered it somewhere else. And so they told me that you have to return it first, and how do you want to return it? So how do I return something that I didn't get? I mean, it just annoys me, Marcus, that these people don't understand not just English, but they don't even understand the concept of what return means. How do you return something? We don't have anything to return. Exactly. It's really aggravating to me, the way people are doing this, and companies are doing this. So we kicked them to the curb, and we stopped doing business with them. And so if you don't have the right type of technology securing your network, well, it's not a question of if you're going to get hacked, but when.
Right. So
what are you waiting for? Why don't you make sure your network is actually fully secure? It's just like your health, ladies and gentlemen. You need to maintain your network and your IT infrastructure and intranet and internet. Remember, intra is inside of your company. Internet is outside, and also your WAN or your wide area network, if you're part of that, you're managing those separately. You really got to take care, just like you take care of your body. You got to take care of technology and make sure you're always staying on the top of everything.
Right.
Well, we have one more story for tonight, Marcus, and that is, how would you like to go to a store? Okay. A new futuristic type of grocery store. And we heard about this from Amazon, but Amazon kind of stepped out. I don't know if they had problems, but now this new company, it's the Valet Market by Excel Robotics, is now manufacturing from the ground up a computer vision and AI tracking type grocery store where you basically enter with your fob or with your phone with a QR code. And they use what they call these AI-empowered stores that they build from the ground up. And Excel has grown its staff to 80% with headquarters in San Diego, in addition to offices in Argentina and Tokyo, which that's nice. I just hope the support is really there.
Yeah.
So the way this works, in short, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll talk about this in more depth on future shows, but what happens is, let's say you're going to go into a store that is cashierless, and basically it's all self-service. So you walk into the store after you've scanned your phone or your fob, and now it knows who you are. And so the cameras basically watch you, and when you go to get something like an item, they have multiple sensors around that, not only weight sensors, but cameras, and they make sure when you pick it up, and as you pick it up and it comes out of a certain view, then the system automatically will just charge that or put that into your shopping cart, I should say. And it doesn't charge you until you actually leave the store. So it's interesting what they're doing.
Yeah,
and when you put something back, it basically like removes it from your cart. So think of these stores like an electronic shopping cart, where it's just like you adding something to your cart and then removing it respectively based on whether you have it on your person or not. This is going to cause issues when we get into things like alcohol and other types of 21 plus products, because these systems are going to need another level of verification. Not that they can't do it, but that's something they're not doing right now. And so that's going to almost require a gated area so that when you go there and you, let's say, try to pull up one of these products that might be adult related or alcohol, you're not going to be able to remove that product if it doesn't know that you're over 21. And again, that can be very easily verified.
Okay.
And when you get there, it will just kind of be locked down. So not only will it be something where, it has to detect, but also has to almost block you from getting to the area. Maybe it'll have a door on it so that if I want to go to the adult liquor counter and I go somewhere, I literally have to go in through another turnstile, or I have to go through a turnstile and then swipe again so it can open up the door on the 21 plus cabinet. So there's lots of things that could be done. That could also be happening on certain types of things like Claritin and other types of allergy medication, a similar type of thing. But then they're going to have to check verifications to make sure that you're not allergic to things if you're taking something like that possibly, or just are you allowed one or two and what's the limit, and keep that associated with you. And if you take more than that one, it's not going to let you get a second one, or more than two, then it's going to block you. So it's interesting. I think there's a lot that has to happen, Marcus, before we're going to see a true store. I mean, even though they have a store that they did open up, I think it's the beginning, okay? They actually opened a store not too long ago. I think it was last month. It was in East Village. They got this Futuristic Grocery Store. And they put this in the bottom of a high-end type apartment building. And so the app tracks the individual as they move through the store. Sensors are built into shelves to signal to the Excel company which items the person picks up. It allows the shoppers to literally grab what they want, as I said, and go. And, this is interesting.
It is.
However, there are going to be complications. Like when you go to do a return, do you just walk in and pop something back on the shelf and it just automatically, or is there like a return process and you put in a bin and it has to inspect it, make sure it hasn't been opened? So there's definitely things. I mean, this is the beginning. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've just about come to the end of the show. I don't know where our time goes, Marcus, but we have another amazing guest coming up next week. I'm sure you knew that. Sheila Mack is the author of Bootstraps and Bra Straps and the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. She's going to join us. We're going to have a great conversation with her, and I think you guys are really going to find it to be interesting, and I'm really excited to interview her. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you have not already shared our content, what are you waiting for? And if you have an idea for a show, go to jmor.com, click on the reach out button in the top right-hand corner, and let us know that you have an idea for a show. If you'd like to be a guest on a show, you'll be able to apply there as well. And remember, it has to be educational content. That is most important. We do get a lot of people, and we have to refuse a lot of them. So I do want to let you know it has to be educational. Educational is defined as something that is going to help someone improve their life or someone else. It's not about selling a product or a service. It's about the technology or about a journey or something like that. Of course, if you have a question, you can reach out to us. But if you're reaching out and saying, hey, I want to tell people about this product, we're probably going to tell you we're not interested. And I just want you to understand why. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're making lots of strides, including another brother company of ours that is getting off the ground, Neighborhood Productions, a full video company that produces some pretty amazing video content. And you can actually check out some of the amazing content we have by going to Envision, ENVISION, networking on YouTube, or you can go to John, space C, space MORLEY, Serial Entrepreneur, and check out my fantastic, fabulous, super motivational Friday motivational videos. And also, don't forget to check out on Envision Networking, Science Fridays and How to Network with John. Every video has a personal lesson. So our science videos are not just about science. They're actually about how you can improve your life and other people's lives. Well, Marcus, it's that time, unfortunately. Yeah. We have to say goodbye, don't we? I would love to stay with everyone. But tell people about our show. We're growing, and we would love you to keep following us and keep telling your friends and associates. But like our stuff, share it, because we got some amazing stuff coming. And ladies and gentlemen, we are just getting started. Well, I guess we got to wish you guys a great weekend, a very happy, healthy, and a safe one. And remember, get outside, have some fun, exercise, maybe have a barbecue. And I guess we got to say goodbye, Marcus, right?
Bye, everyone.
All right, bye, everyone. We will see you next week, and take care and be well.
Be well.
Thank you for tuning in to the JMOR Weekly Technology Show, where we answer your questions about how technology is supposed to work and sometimes why you have challenges getting it to work that way. For more IT support and tips, just text IT support to 888-111. That's IT support to 888-111, and you'll get tips on technology. I'll see you next week right here on the JMOR Tech Talk Show. Remember, JMOR.com.